So let's talk about 2026. Have you felt it? There's this strange feeling in the air, right? Kind of like a mix of excitement and, I don't know, a little bit of dread. In some traditions, it's the year of the fire horse, and it just comes with this feeling that something big, something we've all been putting off, is about to come due.
So, yeah, why does 2026 feel so different? It's not really fear, is it? It's more like this deep restlessness, this sense of inevitability. Suddenly, plans feel a little less certain, and even silence feels kind of loud. This whole explainer is really about digging into that feeling and trying to understand what's going on underneath the surface. Okay, so let's get into our first big idea. The theme for 2026 seems to be that it's the year that exposes. And here's the key. The thinking is that this time isn't about creating some brand new chaos out of nowhere. No, it's about revealing what's already been there, just hiding right under the surface.
I mean, check out this quote from astrologer Raymond Lowe. He puts it so well. The fire horse does not push people off the cliff. It removes the illusion that the ground was ever solid. Wow. Just think about that for a second. The whole idea is that in 2026, trying to avoid things just becomes too exhausting. All those systems, those relationships, those parts of our identity that depend on us just kicking the can down the road, they start to feel shaky, not because they're under attack, but because the energy that was propping them up just runs out.
And that connects perfectly to this next point. Astrologer Chani Nicholas calls it a values reckoning. She says what it exposes is not failure, it's postponed honesty. This is so important. It's not about being punished for messing up. It's about finally facing the real cost of not being true to ourselves. You know, that chaos we might feel, a lot of the time, it's just our own true values screaming to be heard.
And here's one more way to think about it from Susan Miller. I love this. She says, the fire horse simply removes the buffering. It's like life suddenly stops loading and just plays. Things might feel like they're speeding up, but what's really happening is our ability to stay in denial just gets smaller and smaller. All those desires we've pushed down for years, well, they suddenly have nowhere left to hide. So the point isn't that the year is mean, it's just honest, relentlessly honest.
So that brings us to a really critical question. When things in our life start to fall apart, what is really collapsing? This next section gets right to the heart of it. It's called the collapsing false self because so often what looks like a breakdown on the outside, in our job or a relationship, it actually started a long, long time ago, deep inside of us. So what even is this false self? Well, to put it simply, it's the version of us we put on for the world. It's the identity we use to get approval, to fit in, to keep things running smoothly. But it's not the one that's truly aligned with who we are. It's a strategy, really. It's a mask. And it might have worked for a while. It might have even helped us survive. But every strategy has an expiration date. And this is where the whole thing just flips. Listen to this incredible insight from Carolyn Miss. Collapse is not punishment, it is conservation. The psyche eventually refuses to subsidize a life built on misalignment. I mean, what an idea, right? The breakdown of a role isn't a sign you failed. It's a sign of total internal exhaustion. It's like our own soul just stops paying the energy bill for a life that isn't real. So, this leaves us with a really powerful question. If the thing that's breaking is just an old strategy, something that's just not useful anymore, then what does real courage even look like in a moment like this? What are we supposed to do?
And that's exactly what this next part is about. Courage over comfort. Because this is the challenge, isn't it? It's that moment where we have to decide whether to leave a stability that feels safe and familiar, but is slowly becoming a trap. It's that gut-wrenching choice between the pain we know and a future that's uncertain but might actually be true.
Okay, this is super important because we have to be able to tell the difference between two kinds of change. On one side, you've got reckless change. That's all about running away from something uncomfortable. It's about avoiding responsibility. It's basically just an escape. But then on the other side, you have authentic courage. And that's totally different. It's about moving toward what feels right, toward alignment. It's about taking ownership, and it's ultimately about finding meaning, not just running from pain. You know, the mythologist Joseph Campbell actually had a name for this exact moment of hesitation. He called it the refusal of the call. He said, the hero clings to duty, obligation, or fear, mistaking them for virtue. And that is the trap, right there. We convince ourselves that staying put is the responsible or loyal thing to do. We tell ourselves we're being virtuous, when really we're just scared of taking the next step on our own path. So, if we're stuck, how do we get unstuck? Well, this quote from Naval Ravikant gives us a pretty mind-bending answer. He says, "Clarity is a reward for movement, not a prerequisite for it. Action clarifies priorities by eliminating noise." We always think we need to have the perfect plan, to know exactly how it's all going to turn out before we do anything. But what if that's backward? What if taking that first uncertain step is the only thing that can give us the clarity we've been waiting for? And that idea of movement leads us right into our final section, which might be the most important lesson of all: freedom through release. The whole focus here shifts. It suggests that real freedom isn't about what you can get or what you can add to your life. It's about what you're finally willing to let go of. Which brings this whole thing right back home to a very, very personal question for each of us. So, what must we release? Let's look at some of the things we tend to hold on to for dear life. Those familiar but painful stories we tell ourselves about who we are. That paralyzing need to be 100% certain before we do anything. Identities we've totally outgrown but are too scared to take off. The fantasy that anything is permanent. And of course, attachments that are based on habit, not on truth. These are the heavy bags we've been dragging around. And the final thought on this is just, well, it's beautiful. From Thich Nhat Hanh, letting go is an act of love. When we release attachment, we create space for ourselves and for others to breathe. This just reframes everything. Letting go isn't destructive. It's not selfish. It is an act of profound compassion that frees up not just you, but everyone around you too. So, I want to leave you with this one last thought to wrap all this up. That pressure you might be feeling about 2026, that restlessness, maybe it isn't coming from the future at all. Maybe, just maybe, it's coming from the part of you that's finally ready.